Hello and welcome to my channel Ava Angels. I am Helena, hi. And today I would like to talk about my assessment for ADHD, which happened just a few weeks ago. So I'm not going to be just talking about what I think about ADHD and how it affects my life and stuff like that. That's for another video. But today I just want to make like a practical guide. It's the sort of stuff I would have appreciated if somebody told me, or if I could sort of find out this information beforehand, before I started mine. So first of all, I just wanted to mention that I already thought I was ADHD. I pretty much knew. I found out by accident when I came across some information about inattentive ADHD, end of July 2025, so last year. And then I sort of went into a rabbit hole. I tried to find out as much as I could about ADHD, and I pretty much, realized that this was me and it completely fits my life. And I felt relieved because, well, for many reasons. And so for a few months I knew that I had ADHD. I also started therapy with a wonderful therapist who specializes in ADHD. So we kind of went through all sorts of stuff in my life, and it also helped me to understand like my patterns and things like that. But I'm still, processing everything. And then I was about to open my shop and I just couldn't find the motivation again. And I basically went through like a burnout and just the same old thing, which is related to ADHD, where I had no motivation, nothing. And I was unable to work on my shop, and it was really scary because prior to that, for half a year, I worked on that shop constantly every single day, and I was very excited about it, very motivated. So basically it was at this point where I really felt desperate, and so I decided to contact my GP and start the ADHD assessment journey. So all I'm going to talk about now may or may not apply to you, depending on where you live. I live in England, United Kingdom. I chose a particular clinic and I'm going through NHS. But hold on a second, because it's not what you think it is. So what I did is I went through an NHS program called Right to Choose, which is something I never heard before. So that's why I'm making this video, because I think it might be helpful to many. So first of all, I contacted my GP and I basically told her all my symptoms, how it affects my life, how it's ruining my life. And she basically assessed our conversation. And on those bases, she decided to send me additional forms to fill in. And so she did. And I received this by text. I guess that's how our surgery works. So mid-October 2025, I contacted my GP and she sent me those forms to fill in. One of the forms the GP sent me was a self-screener. It was like a questionnaire about my symptoms and stuff like that. It was like a proper one, but like a general sort of questionnaire, I would say. And then she also sent me a list of clinics that I could choose from, and it was on this public website called ADHD UK. I'm gonna link everything below in the description box, the clinic that I chose and also this website, because it has a lot of useful information and it's a public website. It's like nothing secret. So people who are interested in the ADHD assessment, or they want to find out about the Right to Choose program, they can go on this website and read the info on there, because it's really helpful. So these clinics that are listed on the ADHD UK website are private clinics, but they take NHS clients for free when they go through the Right to Choose program. So you have a long list of clinics, and I think they are separated into like adult ADHD diagnosis and then children's diagnosis. I'm not sure if there's anything about autism at all. It might be. But so you have them in like sections, which clinic does what. And also next to the clinic, there is information about if they are allowed to prescribe medication, and then if they can transfer the prescription onto your GP later on, and also the waiting times for assessment. And I chose one that was the most appealing to me. And I also went onto Google reviews, Trustpilot reviews on Google, and I checked loads of different clinics, and I decided on this particular one, which I'm gonna link in the description box, because it seemed like it had good reviews, and I didn't just look at the stars, I actually looked at what people had to say, so I could decide whether I think it's a good clinic or not, for me anyway. And also it had like a really short waiting times, which I kind of liked. And they were able to prescribe medications if I wanted to go that route. So I filled in the forms that the GP gave me, and I added my preferred clinic to one of the forms, and then I sent it off. And in about 2 weeks after I sent it to my GP, they referred me to this clinic. And then on 12th of November, the clinic, my preferred clinic, emailed me like a welcome letter and kind of gave me some links, like if I wanted to read about them and how they work. And they basically sent me a link to like a special website where I had to sign in, and there were so many forms for me to fill in. I don't know if it's the same with every clinic. I am sure that they have to follow certain procedures and certain rules, so I'm guessing it's the same for like probably most clinics. But there were a lot to fill in. So I think there were about 4 different questionnaires that were related to my ADHD mainly, and the symptoms and kind of how it affected me throughout my life. All these forms were quite long, but it was just a case of ticking boxes and choosing the appropriate options that like apply to me and my life. It was all right, but there was a bit of typing, like you had to kind of tell them about you and your symptoms and how it affects you and how it like shows up in your life. And obviously each form was like a different topic. So there was like school, there was employment, friendships, all sorts of stuff. So there were 4 forms about that, if I remember. One of the forms were extremely long, like really long. And there was a lot of typing. Yeah, it was fun. But it was all doable. And then I think there was like a form about your physical health, about your mental health. Then there was form for somebody who knew you as a child. So I got my mom to fill that one in. And another form for somebody who knows you now or who's known you for a while, but knows you in your like adult years. So my husband filled that one in. And then there was like I think like a general well-being form. I also needed my blood pressure, pulse, weight and height to fill in. So I also needed to upload my ID and then summary care record, which I got from my GP surgery. So I just emailed my GP surgery that I wanted summary care record, and they emailed me like next day with a link where I could download my summary care record. Once I completed everything and uploaded everything, each questionnaire, each form, whatever they asked me, it said submitted, submitted. There was not like a general button where you then submit all of them at the same time and then get like a number or like a confirmation email that you submitted all these questionnaires and forms, which kind of made me a little bit nervous because I wasn't sure if I needed to do anything else. So after a while, I ended up actually emailing this clinic just to check that there was nothing else I needed to do. And they sent me an email back and they assured me that there was nothing else I needed to do. And they just need to go through all the forms and then they would contact me once they have everything sorted. And then they would contact me with the date for assessment. And then on 31st of December, I was contacted by the appointments team from this clinic, and they offered me like a range of appointments for the assessment, and one of them was like 3 days away. So I just went for that one because it was on Saturday, and I thought, on Saturday my husband can watch the kids and I can just, get on with the assessment. And so I agreed. And the lady on the phone was really helpful and lovely. So it was brilliant. And so after I agreed to the appointment on the phone, I was sent an email to confirm my appointment, and I was sent a link to this virtual appointment, and it was done through Microsoft Teams, and it was like a link, so I didn't need to do anything, but I decided to download Teams app anyway, just in case, because I wanted to be prepared, because it said that if you missed the appointment, you would go right back onto NHS waiting list. Not the NHS right to choose, but an actual NHS waiting list. So I really made sure that I didn't miss the appointment and that I was well prepared. And I also checked that the link worked. I actually left everything last minute, but if you are going to do it this way, then just do it as soon as you receive the email, like with the appointment and with the link. Read the whole email, make sure that you have everything ready, make sure that you have checked that the link works, and if anything, you can then contact them and get it resolved in time for the appointment. I didn't do that. I rushed and then I panicked, and it all worked, so it's fine. I was lucky. Anyways, try not to miss your appointment because it is important. And then once I knew my assessment date, I started to panic, and I started to write down my whole life story. And I was so worried that I would forget everything. And, all these things that I was talking to my therapist about, I was like, my God, what if I don't remember? So I think I've got about this many pages of my life story and all the symptoms and how they appear in my life. I think I could write a book about my ADHD at this point. And I was pretty much doing this until like a few minutes before the appointment started. I just kept writing and writing stuff that I remembered so that I don't forget. Spoiler, I probably needed like 10% of what I wrote, because there was no way I could tell this person all of the stuff that I wrote. We only had an hour for the assessment, and he had his own questions, and he obviously needed to follow some sort of structure of the assessment. I don't know how to say it. Like he obviously had questions to ask, and then obviously he would follow up on what I had to say. But like, I really tried to squeeze as much information as possible. And, I sometimes I laugh about it because, like, poor guy, his head must have been like this after our assessment. Oh my God. And I kept jumping from one thing to another and like trying to squeeze like all the information. And a few times he said, I understand that you have everything like written down and there's loads of stuff that you want to tell me, but it's fine, you don't need to, it's okay, you are doing so well. He was really professional, really nice. I don't know why I was so nervous, and I was basically just so worried that he would say, no, you don't have ADHD, and then I would be back to square one, wondering what was wrong with me, why I'm like this, why I can't manage anything, why I'm always behind, even if I'm trying so hard. Yeah, so I had all these fears, and it really made me so nervous. But the appointment was good, like the assessment, it was good. He was really kind of laid back, but professional, and it kind of made me feel at ease. And yeah, he asked his questions and I answered them, and I kind of just talked about my life. It was kind of like nice conversation. It wasn't just like tick boxes, tick, tick, tick. This one was more like a relaxed conversation where it had structure, and he let me speak, but he did have to kind of like follow a certain path in the assessment. So it was very good, and it kind of like at the end I felt more at ease. And then he gave me my diagnoses, which are ADHD combined type So my assessment happened on 3rd of January 2026, and on 12th of January I received an email with the report and also some additional links to like next steps. So one of them was for like therapy and coaching, and the other one was for medications. And because I'm already in therapy, I decided to try medications. So I filled in some additional forms for that, which wasn't a lot. It was pretty straightforward, and I sent it off. And now I'm in the process of just waiting, and I think it will take probably another 3 months before somebody comes back to me. And then we can take other steps, we can discuss it further, and I don't know, maybe I will need to do ECG. I'm not sure, but we'll see what happens. Now, an interesting thing is that before I even had my assessment and when I contacted my GP for the very first time, I was thinking about medications as like this holy grail, something that will help me to get more organized and more focused and just quiet my mind and, you know, just be more normal and get on with normal tasks, especially me trying to work from home. But I think over the following few months, and especially after receiving the diagnosis, I'm kind of looking at it in a slightly different way, and I'm okay not taking it. Like, I'm gonna 100% try, because if it's gonna make my life easier, I want to try, I want to do it. For some reason, I'm kind of slowly getting to terms with this whole diagnosis, and I think something changed after I actually got like formally diagnosed. So after I got diagnosed, I did feel relieved, and I think I started to feel more determined to make things work and to change, but not change through like neurotypical tips and tricks and strategies, but really find a way that works for me and really, you know, give it my best, because there is no coming back. Yeah, so it definitely gave me new determination and kind of new focus on my life in a different way. I don't know how to explain it, it's kind of strange, but definitely relief, and definitely gave me strength. I did feel a little bit sad as well, but you know, I already knew that I was ADHD before getting diagnosed. I think when you have it on paper, it kind of hits different. So yeah, that was my ADHD assessment, and everything was through email, phone, and virtual appointment. So it was really straightforward, really easy. I didn't need to travel anywhere. I didn't need to do anything special. And I'm just gonna see how long this whole medication path takes. It might take even longer than 3 months. They say about 3 months, but who knows? I'm gonna do other things in the meanwhile. And also I wanted to mention that the clinic then sent the same report to my GP. So my GP should have it on their records. And so this is pretty much my journey with ADHD so far. And I really hope that the person who needs to hear this information will come across this video, because I would have found it so helpful back in the days. You know, just to know like step by step what happens. I'm not saying that this is the exact process for every single clinic or every single right to choose patient. I'm just saying this was my experience, and I gave you as much information as possible. And if you would like to get assessed for ADHD, I would actually encourage you to do so. I think I mentioned this in my previous video. There are people who don't need labels, and there are people who find labels helpful. And I am one of them. And I never thought I would, but in case of ADHD, I do. And I also have some other labels that help me process some other things that are happening. I'm not going to talk about that, but knowing I am ADHD helps me tremendously, because it helps me focus on my life in a particular way, and I find it really helpful. And yeah, so it's up to you. Anyways, I would like to wish you good luck on your own journey, and I hope everything goes smoothly for you. And if you have any questions, then you can leave them in the comment section below. And if you know anybody who is looking into assessment for ADHD and is from England, then you can forward them this video, and I hope it will be helpful. All right, take care and see you next time. Bye bye.